Thank you. It's a great honor to be here. When Petro asked me what I'd like to speak about, I thought this might be a good framework. Competition law, a European vision of the digital context. But as a Briton who was born in Germany and teaches in Belgium and is honored to be part of a long European tradition and who very much hopes we can continue to contribute when our distractions are over, I thought I would make my own little personal tribute by talking about something else entirely. Maybe it gives us something to think about for 2020, next year's competition. Of course, you have a lot of experience in this regard, and I hope I can find some insights for competition law and digital. So, where to start? Well, this year we had an entry to Eurovision by the hosts, which was written by artificial intelligence. It didn't do so well, but clearly AI is already here and is growing. But let's rewind a few decades to the Kinks entry in Eurovision with their song Think Visual. Now recently, lead singer Ray Davies said that he doesn't even remember writing this song, but its lyrics are strangely prescient. Productivity is getting higher and higher. Oh yeah. The competition is getting tighter and tighter. We gotta advertise, we gotta monetize. Ooh, oh yeah. Competition's on the rise. Open those eyes. Better get computerized. Think visual, think visual, think visual. We got a budget to face, and the marketplace is full of competition. Competition. Think digital, synthesize, computerize, think visual. So, in digital markets, with users providing content and eyeballs driving profit, and what we are shown online being oh so important, the Kinks had it all covered, and that song was from 1986. The same era when the British superband Queen had its hit Radio Gaga, written by the drummer Roger Taylor. Again, prescient lyrics even then, but as technology adapted, new lyrics evolved for the touring Queen musical, positing a tech giant called GlobalSoft. We sit alone and watch your light, our only friend through teenage nights, and everything we want to get, we download from the internet. GlobalSoft. No need to think, no need to feel, when only cyberspace is real. It makes us laugh, it makes us cry, it makes us feel like we can fly. GlobalSoft. Hope to record our life online, touch any key, the world is mine. We're lost in space, but we don't care. Without your light, our world's not there. Complete control. You are the power. Our lives are programmed by the hour. All we hear is Radio Gaga, video goo goo, internet caca. All we hear is cyberspace gaga, marketing blah blah. GlobalSoft, GlobalSoft. So, even back then, there was a sense of power growing on one side and consumer dependency on the other, and a lack of choice. Now, of course, as we all know, concerns came to a head with Hotel California, the title track from the Eagles album of the same name. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Relax, said the night man, we are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. So digital is everywhere. There is even a band actually called Big Data, and they have a song that is actually called Monster. I created a monster. It's out of control. It's going to take me. I created a monster. I didn't know what I was making. I created a monster. Oh. I created a monster. Now it's coming for all of us. Unsurprisingly, over the last year in particular, there have been louder and louder demands that something must be done. This movement has been unkindly labeled hipster antitrust, but it isn't really new. Back in 1973, we had chart leader Tower of Power, a rhythm and blues band with a horn section, who asked and answered, what is hip? So you became part of the new breed, been smoking only the best weed, maybe hipper than hip. But what is hip? Hipness, what it is. Hipness, what it is. Hipness, what it is. So Tower of Power were revealing antitrust hipsters' certain penchant for circular reasoning. Just look at a problem and see in it a solution. See high prices, order them down. See bigness, make it small. And act now. Don't think or analyze. So politically, one approach has become quite popular. I call it the Nike approach. Just do it. Just do something. Just do it. Particularly something bold. This has certainly been picked up by famous West Coast hipsters, the Black Eyed Peas, in their song from 2009, I've Got a Feeling. I feel stressed out, I want to let it go. Let's go way out, spaced out, lose all control. Tonight's the night, jump off that sofa, let's live it up, go out and smash it like, oh my God. Let's paint the town, get prices down, let's burn the roof, and then we'll do it again. Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. What's big is bad, so break up big. Just do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. So, antitrust hipsters feel the need and plead for authorities to do what you want when you got a feeling. Just do it. Act. Intervene. Break up platforms. Separate businesses. Don't wait for proof of any consumer harm before intervening. Have faith that what you're doing is right. And we hear that also from the late, great George Michael. You gotta have faith, faith, faith. You gotta have faith, faith, faith. But my view of antitrust hipsters echoes roughly the message of a 1980s band with a fabulous name, Faith No More, and their song that is actually called Evidence. If you want to open up the hole, just put your hipster head down and go. Step beside the piece of circumstance. Got to wash away the taste of evidence. Wash it away. Evidence. Wash away that taste of evidence. And even the man who offered mathematical guidance on how to end a faith-based romance, even he sobered up and recommended evidence in his song, Proof. Some people are going to call you up, tell you something that you already know. Sane people go crazy on you. Faith. Faith is an island in the setting sun, but proof, yes, proof is the bottom line for everyone. Now, of course, no discussion of competition law in the Eurovision Song Contest would be complete without Swedish Sweethearts and Superstars and their hit single from the Super Trooper album released on 21st of July 1980. But what do the lyrics mean? Are they about a complainant vertical provider upset about its drop in search rankings on GlobalSoft? Or are Agnetha and Annie Fried just stating a fundamental principle of competition itself? True competitions have losers. I apologize if it makes you feel bad, seeing me so tense, no self-confidence, without evidence. But you see, the winner takes it all, and the loser has to fall. Beside the victory, that's her destiny. My friend was my frenemy. Building me a home, thinking I'd be strong there, but I was a fool, playing by the competition rules. The algorithm gods may throw a dice, their minds as cold as ice, and someone way down here loses someone dear. The winner takes it all, the loser has to fall. It's simple and it's plain, why should I complain? And what can I say? Rules must be obeyed. The judges will decide. The likes of me abide, spectators of the show always staying low. And ideally, judges decide on the basis of proof and evidence, not just rhetoric, even at the European courts. And when I get criticized by antitrust hipsters who think evidence is overrated, I just follow the words of infamous switcher Taylor Swift. Haters gonna hate, 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 hate. Baby, I'm just gonna shake, 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 shake. I shake it off. I shake it off. Nevertheless, we do need to be alert to new developments and possible threats. What is the next big thing after search? Artificial intelligence, fed by permanent surveillance through the Internet of Things. Live microphones and cameras that you actually pay to bring into your own home. They listen to you and you feed them, and they steer you, not with screens but with voice, limiting choice by building on consumer impatience and inertia to just present effectively a choice of one item. And as an Australian entrant in Eurovision has noted, with her own mind-controlling soundworm, there are risks when you are presented repeatedly with only one option. La la la, la 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 la, la la la, la 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 la. I just can't get you out of my head. Now, of course, the risks of AI in the home were further explained by Lou Bega in his famous academic paper, Mambo Number 5, and I summarize. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everyone in the hall, come on and look alive. A little bit of Alexa on all the time, a little bit of Echo in my life, a little bit of Sonos in the sun, a bit of HomePod all night long. And as we continue, you know their data's getting sweeter. So what can I do? Really, I beg you, my lord, because you can't run and you can't hide. They'll grow and grow until they touch the sky. That's why Margarita's on my mind. Theresa's time in the sun came to an end. Brexit, let's dump it, said in the trumpet, please get it undone, and focus on digital, here I am, and new theories of harm, well, thank you, ma'am, but a little bit of evidence makes me your man. But what do we do with evidence? What are our priors? Do we use it with malice, or do we use it with humility? Do we stay in a reasoned, expert-led enforcement space, or do we go somewhere else, someplace more political, more intrusive? Now, we have some experience with this kind of debate in the UK. There are those, like the antitrust hipsters, who say we should leave the current consumer welfare model and ignore experts and evidence and just take back control. Regulate the platforms, break them up. And we in the UK have some insights on how likely that is to be helpful. Going it alone and bucking consensus doesn't always pay off. But at the same time, doing just the same thing isn't necessarily the solution. In Free Will, the second track on the 1980 album Permanent Waves by Canadian progressive rock band Rush, lead singer Geddy Lee explained how inaction is also a decision. You can choose a ready guide in some celestial voice. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Doing more of the same and expecting different results is not always the best approach. Doing the same thing over and over certainly doesn't move you forward in a changing world. And we know that it's not true that there is nothing to change. We must not remain in competition law silos, ignoring the pressures of the digital giants, or ignoring political calls for change. We can't just say there is nothing to look at here. Network effects, tipping markets, inert consumers are a recipe for power grabs, not for competition. So we have to be constantly asking ourselves if competition law is fit for purpose. Now, most authorities are studying how best to do this. Some, like next year's Eurovision hosts, are charging ahead on many fronts with many, many market studies and with cases and interventions, both national and European. Others move fast and intervene to prevent harm. They learn by doing and doing and doing. And some authorities are firm in other ways, like the old Tom Petty song, I won't back down, no I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down, no I'll stand my ground, I won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down, gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down. Now, of course, we all know the old saying, it's better to beg forgiveness than to ask permission. Nevertheless, if you are going to push the envelope on enforcement, we also know that you still have to bring the courts with you. It is time to move on from the year of reports to real action. But in our work on the Furman panel, we looked at this precise issue in writing our contribution, Unlocking Digital Competition. And we don't want to wait for cases to be won or lost in court. But did we argue for a middle ground between the regulatory levers and the antitrust remainers? No, our digital competition expert panel didn't take a middle way. We took values from both sides, not for a middling compromise, but to come to a consensus on the right thing to do. Now, in our view, the consumer welfare standard is dynamic enough not to be given up. It works well, particularly if it is interpreted to consider dynamic non-price effects as well as static price effects, and so long as it looks at potential competition in all its forms. So I would argue that we don't leave the consumer welfare standard and we stay together within an international community of like-minded enforcers. Now, we had recommendations to speed up antitrust enforcement and to adjust the substantive approach for merger review to a balance of harms model, But our most important contribution was a proposal for a complement to competition law, an additional function of pro-competitive regulation enforced by a digital markets unit, which would apply digital and competition expertise to bring the tech giants, entrants, and consumer stakeholders together to develop a code of conduct, a song sheet, if you will, to drive out the most egregious practices ex ante, and thus prevent a lot of harms before they happen, and thus take some of the pressure off ex post competition law enforcement. The Code of Competitive Conduct would be enforced by a digital markets unit. The code would be applied only to particularly powerful companies, those deemed to have strategic market status. Moreover, the digital market unit would be charged with enabling greater personal data mobility and systems with open standards, where these tools will increase competition and consumer choice. We would rather get ahead of problems and not leave everything to differing competition law interpretations around the world. We like a competition of competition policies, but we thought something else needed to be done to have a more coherent and more concerted approach to tech conduct. But will the tech giants come to the party? And will it just be a circus where regulators are captured and duped by vague promises to behave? Well, some of the giants are already engaging with us, and it makes sense for them to be inside the tent rather than outside wondering what's going on. And as for capture, we won't be subject to that. We envision a participative regulatory discussion of the giants, the key complainants, consumer groups, fintech, venture capital, and government to provide a strong but flexible code of conduct. And it is in the interest of tech giants to engage and indeed behave, because the alternative is much more sadistic. Unless we start addressing the problems inherent in market power, economic dependency, and bottleneck markets, the broader regulatory concerns with online harms and threats to our democracy will introduce a regulatory winter that will indeed chill innovation incentives. We don't want that. Our Furman report doesn't have all the answers, but it was a quintessentially British contribution to what needs to be an international discussion and action. It's measured, it's based on evidence, and it is not radical socialism or antitrust hipsterism. We do think that the issues in digital markets need more than just rapid competition law enforcement, and we think that an appropriate approach is to ensure coordination among digital portfolios and competition policy. So I'm sure you have ideas on how that can be done at the European level. I certainly do. Now, we don't know if our digital competition recommendations will be a hit single, and we know all too well that in the Eurovision Songcontest, the UK is usually awarded null point. And these days, I'm amazed that our distracted little island off the French coast is even listened to at all. But I offer it to you for your consideration. So I close. It's fantastic that we are discussing these issues here this week, and I truly believe that our exchange of ideas will help forge what we really need, which is better international understanding and international vision on how best to go forward. So you've heard from the professor. Let's begin the discussion in action, whether in Rio, Tokyo, Nairobi, Helsinki, or of course Berlin. Let 2020 be a year of real competition, even in Rotterdam, and real action for the benefit of consumers and markets. And if we do that, we'll find out, of course, that competition is not just an end in itself. Far from it. Competition is a means to an end, and competition matters. Thank you.